Good day, Sir Paspasan. My name is Romela Espinosa, one of the representatives of Group 2 from BSED Math 3A. And this is our final term, project in MM19, Assessment and Evaluation in Mathematics. In our first table is table of specifications. In the first row, we will see the competency, code, item numbers, Bloom's taxonomy, and its total. The first competency is distinguishes between a discrete and a continuous random variable. Its code is M11-12S P3A2. Item number 1 is related to remembering. Items number 27 and 30 is related to understanding, with a total of 3 items for this competency. The next competency is finds the possible values of a random variable. Its code is M11-12S P3A3. Item number 4 is related to understanding. Item number 22 is related to understanding. Items number 13, 14, 23, 25 is related to applying. Item number 17 is related to evaluation, with a total of 7 items for this competency. The next competency is computes probabilities corresponding to a given random variable. Its code is M11-12S P3A6. Items number 2, 7, 10, 11, 12, 18, 19, 20, 21, 24 are items related to applying. Items number 15, 16, 9, 28, 29 are items related to analyzing. And items number 3 and 8 are items related to creating, with a total of 17 items for this competency. And our last competency is calculates the mean and the variance of a discrete random variable. Its code is M11-12S P3B2. Item number 26 is related to remembering. Items number 5 and 6 are related to applying, with a total of 3 items for this competency. In the item numbers, we have a total of 30. In remembering, we have 3 items for this. We have 3 items also for understanding, 16 items for applying, 5 items for analyzing, 1 item for evaluation, and 2 items for creating. In the next table, we will see the item analysis difficulty level. In the first row, we can see the items from 1 to 10, and the first column contains correct responses or correct answers of the respondents, incorrect responses or wrong answers of the respondents. Total responses is a constant of 37 because we have only 37 respondents. Item difficulty index, we will see the formula of this at the lower right side bottom. The difficulty index formula is DF is equals to small letter n over capital letter N, where small letter n is number of correct responses and capital letter N is the total number of responses. Next of it is interpretation. The interpretation is at the lower left side bottom. We can see the reference. Difficulty index result of 0 to 0.25 has an interpretation of difficult and action of revise or discard. Difficulty index of 0.26 to 0.75 has an interpretation of average with an action of retain. The difficulty index result of 0.76 and above has an interpretation of easy with an action of revise or discard. So now let's go back to item analysis. Item number 1 has a correct responses of 37 with a 0 incorrect responses, and item difficulty index of it is 1 with an interpretation of easy, and its action is revised. Item number 2 got 33 correct responses with 4 incorrect responses, and its item difficulty index is 0.8919 with an interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. In item number 3, it got 25 correct responses with 12 incorrect responses, and its item difficulty index is 0.6756 with an interpretation of average, and an action should be retained. Item number 4 got a correct responses of 29 with incorrect responses of 8, and its item difficulty index is 0.7838 with an interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. The fifth item is got 20 correct responses, 17 incorrect responses. Item difficulty index is 0.5405 with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. In item number 6, got 18 correct responses with 19 incorrect responses. Item difficulty index is 0.4865 with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. In item number 7, got 24 correct responses with 13 incorrect responses with an item difficulty index of 0.6486, and its interpretation is average, and action should be retained. In item number 8, got 27 correct responses with 10 incorrect responses, and item difficulty index of 0.7297 with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. In item number 9, got 23 correct responses, 14 incorrect responses, and its item difficulty index is 0.6216 with interpretation of average, and action should be retained. In item number 10, got 22 correct responses, 15 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.59, an interpretation of average. Action should be retained. In the next table, we can see the continuation of items from 11 to 20. In 11, item number 11, the correct responses is 20 with a 17 incorrect responses, and item difficulty index of 0.5405 and an interpretation of average with an action retained. Item number 12 got 24 correct responses with 13 incorrect responses, and its item difficulty index is 0.6486 with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. In item number 13, it got 33 correct responses, 4 incorrect responses, and 0.8919 item difficulty index with interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. In 14, it got 20 correct responses, 17 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.5405 with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. In item number 15, 34 is the correct responses with an incorrect of 3, and its item difficulty index is 0.9189 with an interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. Item number 16 got 21 correct responses, 16 incorrect responses, 0.5676 item difficulty index with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. Item number 17 got 26 correct responses, 11 incorrect responses, 0.7025 in item difficulty index, and interpretation of average with an action of retain. Item number 18 got 24 correct responses, 13 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.6486 with an interpretation of average, an action should be retained. Item number 19 is got 30 correct responses, 7 incorrect responses, 0.8108 item difficulty index with an interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. Item number 20 got 28 correct responses, 9 incorrect responses, 0.7568 as its item difficulty index, and interpretation should be easy, and action should be revised. The next item analysis contains items number 21 to 30. 21 got correct responses of 20 with incorrect responses of 17. Item difficulty index is 0.5405 with interpretation of average, and it should be retained. Item number 22 got 26 correct responses, 11 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.7027, interpretation of average, and action should be retained. Item number 23 got 26 correct responses, 11 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.7027, with interpretation of average, and action should be retained. Item number 24 got 30 correct responses, 7 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.8108, with an interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. Item 25 got 20 correct responses, 17 incorrect responses, item difficulty index of 0.5405, with an interpretation of average, and action should be retained. Item number 26 got 31 correct responses, 6 incorrect responses, 0.8378 item difficulty index, and interpretation of easy, with an action should be revised. Item number 27 got 29 correct responses, 8 incorrect responses, with an item difficulty index of 0.7838, interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. Item number 28 got 29 correct responses, 8 incorrect responses, 0.7838 item difficulty index, interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. Item number 29 got 28 correct responses, 9 incorrect responses, 0.7568 item difficulty index, interpretation of easy, and action should be revised. And lastly, item number 30 got 26 correct responses, 11 incorrect responses, 0.7027 item difficulty index, interpretation average, and action should be retained. Our observation is there are 60% or more than half the items that were found to be average difficulty level, while there are approximately 40% of the items needed to be revised or discarded. Each item of difficulty level was based from the response of college students, which is considered as the limitation of our pilot testing.
And since we are done with our item analysis difficulty index, let's now proceed to our item analysis discriminating power. So, our data was based on the first and last 27% of the respondents, and since we have 37 respondents and 27% of 37 is 9.99 or 10, we base our upper limit to the top 10 highest scorers and our lower limit to the 10 lowest scorers. And based on our calculations in items 1 to 10, as you can see in the table, items 1 and 6 has questionable discriminating items which is to be discarded or to be revised. Items 2 and 4 are reasonably discriminating items, and items 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are very good discriminating items which is to be included. For items 11 to 20, 4 items has questionable discriminating power which is to be revised or discarded, and 6 items are very good discriminating power which is to be included. For the last 10 items 21 to 30, item 26 is to be revised or discarded because it has a questionable discriminating power, and items 23 and 24 are reasonably discriminating power which is subjected for improvement, and the remaining are very good discriminating power which is to be included. Overall, there are 19 items which interpretation is very good discriminating items, 5 items which interpretation is reasonably discriminating items and subject for improvement, and 7 items which has a questionable interpretation. Overall, there are 23 items to be included and 7 items to be discarded or to be revised. So each items of difficulty level was based from the response of college students, which is considered as the limitation of our pilot testing. And that's it for our discussion for the day, and I hope you learned something. Once again, we are the Group 2 of BSED Math 3A, and we have to say thank you very much for listening and watching. I hope you learned something. Stay safe and stay healthy. Annyeong!